Hello everyone, welcome to the Growth Switch with me Cyril. This being episode 10 in our video series. Can you believe it's been 10 episodes already? I can't believe it. It's amazing how time flies. Remember, if you've missed out on the insights on the other 9 episodes, you can go to the channel, the Growth Switch with Cyril, and check those there. Remember, we do these videos for you, so that we help you with your personal growth, and we basically help you in your journey to success. We equip you with the necessary knowledge and the skills and the insights that will help you positively in your journey. So yeah, don't miss out on those insights so that you can also get on board on the growth journey. This week's episode, we're going to be talking about a very important topic. It's a topic on communication, so listening, public speaking, presenting. Um, Communication is very important because it's basically what we do on every given day. If you think about yourself in any day, what do? You speak to other people, and you communicate either through words or through actions, or through a combination of both, right? So if your communication skills or your way of communication is not up to scratch, then you might struggle to actually do day-to-day things. Now imagine when you need to do this in a, let's say, a more formal setting, like say a business setting, or in your workplace, or in any other environment where you need to communicate and present. For example, interviews. In an interview, you are basically in a presentation. You have to present yourself. It's just that interviews obviously have a specific format in terms of how you do that. So if you think about communication, it's one of the cornerstones of what we do on any given day, and everything else that happens in our lives basically links from there. So if you do well in an interview, you communicate well, most likely, if you meet the criteria and you're the perfect fit for the role, the organization will then hire you. But if you get there and you're not able to present yourself, even if you may be the best candidate for the role, then you will suffer. So, so that just underscores how important communication is. Now, an important part of communication as well is being able to listen, right? So listening is a skill, as it's often said, but it can be learned, right? Now, answer the following question: are you the person in a conversation who listens attentively to what the other person has to say before you respond, or are you the person who doesn't even pay attention to what the other person says, and you're just waiting for your turn to respond because you've already made up your mind on what your next response is to whatever they say? Doesn't matter what it may be, you know. So your answer to the question is very important, because remember, listening, you need to listen to understand to what the other person is doing, because your reaction needs to be based on what you've just heard, right? So listening is very, very important. Now, listening, most people confuse it with listening to people when they speak, but you also need to look at body language, right? So let's say you are in a interview setting and you're speaking, and you can immediately see that the people are not either impressed with what you're saying, or you might not be answering their question in the way that they wanted. That's when you stop midway and you're like, guys, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question here. Just let me know if I'm not, and then I will then have to pivot into an answering format that will help me answer your question. So that's how you actually reading in terms of how the people are responding to whatever that you're saying. So listening both to what people are saying, but in terms of body language as well is very, very important. Okay. Now, when it comes to presenting, public speaking, you need to. So those are some of the things that come with practice, right? So some people are born into it. So like naturally they are extroverts, and you put them in front of a crowd and they will just talk with no worries at all. But there's people who are not necessarily extroverts and are more introverted people who actually cringe at the idea of being put in front of a crowd, and being asked to to basically speak and say a few words there. But like any other skill, public speaking and presenting, it can be learned, right? You just need to understand the person that you are. This is when self-awareness comes into play. Am I extroverted or am I introverted? Then once you know that, then you need to figure out, okay, so what do I need to do for me to be able to stand in front of, say, a crowd and then be comfortable in terms of what it is that I'm going to speak. Now, the next few insights I'm going to share are basically to help in terms of what you need to think about or what you can work on that will help you improve on the skills of either presenting or public speaking, because it can be daunting. It doesn't come naturally. Even for me, definitely doesn't come naturally, but you have to continue working at it. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now you need to volunteer for speaking engagements, right? So what do I mean by that? If let's say you work in an organization, and then that organization is going to have some sort of end of year function, and they're looking for people who are going to speak about a certain program that happened during the year, and you happen to be a participant in this program, right? Now there's an opportunity for you to stand in front of your whole division and say a few words, right? It's a daunting task. What's funny enough is this, right? So these are the people you work with in every single day. You probably have lunch with them, you have coffees with them, but now when it comes to you having to stand there formally and speak about this particular program you're a part of, you now start to get scared about it. It's just this fear of, now this is more of a formalized environment, and now I'm standing in front of people, I need to speak. So if you volunteer for this type of initiatives, you basically build up that confidence that you need to be able to stand in front of in front of in front of people and say a few words without any fears. Okay. Then you need to, if you can, and this sometimes helps, you need to join a public speaking educational organization. So I know one of them is Toastmasters International. So Toastmasters International basically help you, and one of the things they help you with is your ability to speak publicly, confidently, make very good speeches which are engaging, and achieve the purpose. I know someone close to me who actually joined that organization, and they benefited quite greatly. In fact, I went to a few of their sessions just to support them, and I could see how it's a very safe space. It's a space where everybody contributes to each other's growth. So if you feel that you need such a space that's going to help you with your presenting or public speaking techniques, then yeah, by all means. You might need to check whether there's a cost. Usually, if there is, it's sometimes minimal, but it's good to check still, so that you know what you're getting yourself into. Okay. Now, when you're doing a speech or you're speaking in public, understand how much time you've got, right? There's people who stand up there and they go on forever and ever, when in fact the brief they were given was that they only have 5 minutes. So make sure that whatever presentation or speech that you've prepared will actually last within the given time frame. Now, don't now have a speech that lasts for 10 minutes when you know very well that you only have 5 minutes to speak, right? It's just being disrespectful to the people who are in attendance there. You must respect the time that you're given, okay? You must practice your speeches, right, beforehand. But not to the point where you're sounding rehearsed, right? It must look natural, right? So when you're standing there, you mustn't sound robotic. You sound like, we can tell he's been practicing this thing. It must come across effortlessly, But then again, those are some of the things that come with practice, right? The first 1 or 2 times, it's gonna sound rehearsed when you do it, but then the next few times, it's gonna sound more. It's gonna sound more effortless, right? Now, the next thing you need to do, another consideration, is you need to bring your own personality into the speeches, right? So you are your own person. So when you do So the way you speak and you deliver a certain presentation or speech on a certain topic is going to be different to how I do it, right? Because I'm Cyril and I'm a different kind of person, right? And you are also a different kind of person. So bring your own personality into things. And you'll find that once you start bringing your own personality into things, you'll become even more comfortable in giving these speeches. You'll start to ad lib, you know. So basically, ad libbing is when you've prepared a speech up front, but then during the speech you also add your own, you know, bits and pieces, you know, so that you can, you know, keep the crowd engaged. Lots of great speakers are able to do that effortlessly. For example, Barack Obama. You know, Barack Obama. Sometimes he would even say, as part of his speech, that okay, I'm now ad libbing, and then he will go back into what the speech was about. You know, yeah. So once you bring on personality, then you become more comfortable. You know, as part of that. Okay, you need to know your audience, right? So how your audience, so who's going to part of your audience determines how you deliver the pitch. You could be speaking on the same topic, you know. So how I'm giving this, this speech here or this presentation here on this topic, how I'm giving it to this audience might be different to if I have to give it to, let's say, a 5-year-old, you know. So there I might have to tailor it, and I might have to explain a few more things that I'm explaining now, you know, because a 5-year-old might not necessarily understand some of the things that I'm referring to, you know. So you must know your audience. For example, if you're going to speak to let's say, an audience of university students in a camp, versus when you're going to speak to a group of execs in a boardroom in a JSA listed organization, even if you're speaking on the same topic, do you realize how you're going to have to tailor your delivery to that organization's needs, to that audience's needs? I mean, okay. You need to listen to the feedback that you get, right, in your speeches. It's good to get feedback, either from people in the audience. In fact, you will get unsolicited feedback, because people will come to you and say, oh, that was a good speech, thank you, appreciated it. You might get someone who might say, I didn't like it, I thought you touched on this, or I didn't like how we delivered this, it wasn't so clear, you know. So those are all, you know, pointers. Also remember, you must also filter those, because there'll be people who will just deliver like hate for no reason, because everybody's got haters. I mean, if you don't have haters, then you're probably not doing anything worthwhile, you know. So if you're doing something, I mean, so if you've got haters, that means you're doing something worthwhile, and you must be able to filter people who are giving you constructive criticism, so people who are trying to improve you overall, so that the next time you deliver a much better product in terms of your speech or presentation, and people who are just trying to shoot you down, to basically say you're not good at this, you must not do this ever again, you know. So you must be able to filter out those people and take comments that are relevant to your growth. Ultimately, it's up to you what you take from the comments and use as part of building up your skill set of public speaking and presenting, right? Okay. Now, if I can go back to the knowing your audience point, so if I can just make an example of myself, a few months ago, I had to give a speech to an audience, which is probably the most powerful room of people I've given a talk to, and I had to basically tailor how I would deliver that message. It was basically a message about my life and how the particular program has helped me in my studies and where I am now and what I'm doing now in terms of I'm trying to impact positively in society, and basically how I had to deliver it there versus how I would have delivered it to, let's say, a group of students was totally different. It was a group of very senior people in society, most of them powerful people. So I had to write down a speech. I'm not one who usually writes down a speech. I usually don't write down my speeches. I think about what points I'm going to cover, and then when I get there, I'm able to then deliver on those points. But in this time, I had to write a speech. And then I had to follow my own advice I just given to you, right? I was given 5 minutes. I rehearsed it. Is it 5 minutes? And then I also rehearsed it to a point where it didn't sound rehearsed. So it became, it just became natural, you know. And then when I delivered the speech, I actually was able to ad lib because I was bringing my personality into it. Um, and then afterwards the speech, the people that I was engaging with then were giving me some what do you call it, feedback on how the speech, how it went. Most people liked it, you know. So basically, it just sums up all the points I just given to you. I've just given my personal example of how I've done this. Okay. Now, if you found these insights useful, just remember to share them with those who stand to benefit the most. And remember, we're on social media as the Code Switch, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get notified when we load new content. And recently, I just launched a website. It's my personal website that has everything that I'm doing, from this initiative to my books, and everything else I'm doing with the Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation. So you can go there as well if you want to find all the information in one place. And yeah, let's grab the fear of public speaking and presenting by the horns, and let's tackle it. Eh? Let's grow together. Yeah.